Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. One of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Before we jump into it, let's talk about our sponsors quick. First is the Rockford Ice Hogs. Their next home game is Wednesday, March 18th versus the Adirondack Flames. Game starts at 7 p.m. Ice Hogs meet up with the Flames for the first time since October during WXRX Dollar Days at the BMO. Fans can enjoy $1 hot dogs, sodas, beers, and companion tickets throughout the night. The matchup is the first of the 3 and 10 days between Rockford and Adirondack. Only 90 minutes from the city limits and fun for the whole family. Get tickets and more at icehogs.com. Swerski Sports is also brought to you by audible.com. If you head over to audible.com/Swerski Sports, that's audible, audible.com/Swerski Sports, SWERSKI Sports, you'll get to download one free audiobook of your choice. Tales from the Chicago Blackhawks Locker Room, a collection of the greatest Blackhawks stories ever told, is one of your choices. It's stories from the original years all the way to the 2010 Stanley Cup run. If football is more your speed, there's Monsters, the 1985 Chicago Bears and the Wild Heart of Football, or the amazing Michael Jordan, The Life. Check out one of these titles or any of 100,000 other titles for free by going to audible.com/Swerski Sports. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I'm here with my friend Gary.
Hey.
And we're watching the Bulls Thunder. And
This is a first, right? Watching a game while doing the show?
it's the first time we've done it.
Oh, you've done it before?
I've done it during Blackhawks games, and you can totally tell because I'll just like I'll zone out and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, shoot the ball, puck. But yeah, this is the first time watching a Bulls game.
I think we'll be okay. I don't see there being anything exciting. Though the last time they played the Thunder, that had to be the best game. I mean, they're gonna have a lot of ugly games now, but they're gonna have some good games. Like I said, the last time they played the Thunder, I mean, if it made Eton Moore a fan favorite when he had that game-winning shot. I mean, it would have been a fun game to go to, that one. But hopefully, Rose and Butler and Gibson will come back before the end of the year, and the ship will be righted, or whatever the expression is.
My worry is that everybody comes back healthy and they can't get into some sort of rhythm.
I mean, maybe.
The best scenario of them all is the Bulls get Milwaukee in the first round.
Well, that's what's looking like will happen.
And then, because then
you'll have time.
Yeah, you know that even without Butler and
speaking of each one,
even without Butler and Rose and Taj, is you're gonna beat Milwaukee.
So
as long as you have Paul Gasol on the court, you're gonna beat them.
So that's kind of why, last time we did this, I was not panicking, and they've been playing as expected, winning some games they shouldn't have, losing some games they shouldn't have. The scoring fluctuates. They don't have a good rhythm. So looking at the standings, Cleveland's passed them up, and that's done with. That's fine. Getting the third seed, having a better record than Toronto, should be their goal, because Indiana kind of scares me. They're lingering around the 7th and 8th seed, and Charlotte is a pretty good team too, and they're around the 7th or 8th seed. So if the matchup with the Bucks, I mean, even if that means you do play Cleveland in the second round, you got to go through Cleveland to get to the NBA Finals. So it is what it is. I agree with you. I'd rather see them play a team like Milwaukee that they can handle regardless if they have their guys back or not. And hopefully they are back, and hopefully they start gelling during that series, and that would just make the series against Cleveland more fun to watch.
Are you more scared of Atlanta or Cleveland?
I think the Bulls match up better against Cleveland than they do against Atlanta. They don't do well with those bigs that can shoot from the outside.
Not at all.
And
that's why the Wizards scare me.
Wizards don't scare me as much because I think they're, even though they have those bigs that can shoot, they seem to be going more towards like their two stud guards just shooting everything. And the last time the Bulls played the Wizards, I mean, they just owned the bigs. So, and your boy Nene had a great game, fouled out with no points.
Banana? Shenane?
So I just think the Hawks are just running on all cylinders, and they're a very underrated team. And I think the Bulls just match up better against Cleveland. I think they can put Butler or Snell on Irving and the other person on LeBron, and that will leave Rose to guard, J.R. Smith, which won't be tiresome for Rose, and all J.R. Smith does is stand out behind the arc and wait for the ball to be passed to him. So, and then the Bulls just have, their bigs are just better than Cleveland's. I mean, how about Kevin Love? He's showing he's not that good.
Yeah. He's a guy that he thrives in. He likes being the big fish in a small pond. You play in non-meaningful games in Minnesota. Fine, you can do well in there, but then suddenly you get into a real team with real competition with winning basketball, and you don't look so good.
I mean, I would argue that their setter, the guy they got from Denver, Timur Moak, I can't pronounce his name, is more important to that team than Kevin Love is right now.
Now, how mad are you? If you're Cleveland, are you mad that you traded that pick?
I mean, I thought it was a silly trade, anyways.
I thought so too.
Because I know they needed bigs, but look, they got. I apologize, I cannot pronounce the name. They got Timur, the center from Denver, for nothing, and he's been great. So, I mean, if you could do things to get bigs like that, and you gave up, Wiggins, who's going to be the Rookie of the Year, and just to think where they could be next year and the year after.
Yep.
It is what it is, though.
Maybe they're trying to win now before LeBron opts out and goes somewhere else.
Goes to LA or New York. I don't know. LeBron wanted his guy, and he got it. So
that's why LeBron makes a better player than a GM.
Well, Michael Jordan for a long time made a better player than the GM, but now as an owner, he's actually doing well. Maybe he's letting someone else run the show.
Well, it's taken him long enough.
Yeah. The Kwame Brown #1 draft. So
you know what, though? To be fair, is Kwame Brown
should have been good.
Should have been good. He was so physically dominant. You look at it as everyone thought he was going to be Shaq too.
He did play with Shaq, didn't he? He played with Ozeli. He won 2. Oh no, wait. He played with Pop.
Yeah.
Didn't he win 2 championships with the Lakers?
Well, so did Adam Morrison.
Oh no, I'm sorry. You were talking about this. Adam Morrison was the guy that did it.
Yeah.
I know Kwame played with the Lakers. I don't know if he won a championship. But I mean, whatever. Like, if the Bulls don't win this year, the only depressing thing that's going to happen is they're going to let go of Tom Thibodeau. Other than that, I mean, they'll be right in it next year too. So Golden State just trounced the Knicks.
That's not hard to do.
You know how much Phil Jackson's getting paid to be the GM of that team? Over $12 million a year. I know this because my cousin's, well, besides everyone knows this, but my cousin's husband's his agent. But yeah, New York's just pitiful. But I mean, what do you expect with the Bulls? Like, I had high hopes going to the beginning of the year, but with injuries, with continuity, with everything, as long as they make a good run in the playoffs, I think I'll be happy with this year. I think we talked earlier in the year. I was hoping Eastern Conference Final would be the goal. You know,
Winning the Eastern Conference should still be the goal if everybody comes back healthy.
yeah, but making it to Eastern Conference Finals, would be a nice thing, like, to get there. The problem is, I think the West is just so good. Like, there's any one of those 8 teams I think could beat the Bulls in a series, at least right now.
Yeah, they're so tough. The East is winnable at least. I mean, Atlanta looks like the only dominant team. So it's the Bulls. The Bulls do still have a lot of problems, even if everybody comes back healthy. Is they still can't play a good team defense.
They still have Kirk Heinrich.
They still have Kirk Heinrich, who's, for the love of God, why is he in there? He can't shoot. He can't play defense.
Here's the problem. We've seen Etuan Moore play extended minutes, and he's been better on defense, and he can shoot. And I don't understand. They're the same position. They're the same height. They're the same everything. Why Kirk Heinrich gets... I think the reason why is he knows the system better, maybe. But by now, this late in the year, Etuan Moore should be at that point.
Yeah, it's... Kirk Heinrich is bad. And he's not the Kirk Heinrich of...
Even last year.
Yeah, or... You know, and he's not even a shell of his former self. He's something less than a shell. Yeah, he used to be a pretty darn good basketball player.
Last year he had a really good. Oof.
Just a lot of injuries.
Noah kind of tripped over his feet there. He last year he had a good season.
We say that he just makes a good play.
I know. That's Joakim Noah. 1 minute looks clumsy, next minute makes a good play.
Well, no, Kirk Heinrich just made a good pass.
Oh, Kirk did.
Yeah. So
Noah made the layup.
Yeah, Heinrich, he can't shoot anymore. He just doesn't look good, and I don't know why Thibodeau. So you could talk about running guys into the ground. You could talk about, but Thibodeau is so. He finds his guys and he sticks with them till the bitter end, and Kirk Heinrich's one of those guys. There's other people that can play the position. Let those guys play the position.
I agree. And I was trying to say with Heinrich before I got distracted by Noah tripping over his feet was last year he didn't have the good stats, but he played very well. He played good D. He moved the ball well. He was a good part of the team last year. It's just that this year, like he's been bad. There's no other way to put it. It's painful to watch him go 0 for 6 with 5 turnovers.
Yeah, it's so Kirk Heinrich is a problem. Team defense is a problem, and not being physical, getting rebounds is a huge problem.
I also think they shoot way too many 3-pointers. Way too many 3-pointers. I think, the one knock on Mirotic, and everyone loves Mirotic, and I think he's awesome. Like, they just shot 2 3-pointers, and Kirk just made one. It's kind of funny. Let's keep knocking him, right? But the one knock on Mirotic is that his field goal percentage is pretty horrid. It's under 40%, and a lot of it's because he just takes way too many threes that he shouldn't be taking. I mean, he's got the skills to drive to the lane. He needs to do more. He creates shots. He creates fouls out of all the time. I mean, he gets to the free throw line a lot. He should continue to do that and have 3-point shooting be his secondary thing. And I think maybe he's forcing the issue because he knows he's considered a scorer. But I think he needs to improve. Just be smart enough not to keep doing that. Other than that, he's been great.
Yeah, but the thing is they've got a lot of bigs. They've got Noah, they've got Mirotic, they've got Gasol, they've got Gibson, but none of those guys are just physical rebounders.
Noah is. I would say Noah is.
He can be. He gets out of position.
Well, the reason why he gets out of position, I mean, the biggest difference between this year and last year is, Paul Gasol plays in the paint, and he plays above the rim pretty well. you can't have two bigs doing that. So, whereas before you didn't, you had him and Carlos Boozer, who never played in the paint ever. Boozer had a great 15-foot shot. Everyone knows that. It was weird looking, but it went in a lot. Get that joke. That enabled Joakim Noah to play above the rim. But with the way Gasol plays, sure, Gasol steps out and shoots outside a lot, but for the most part, Gasol's in the paint a lot. He does a lot of one-on-ones, so that pushes Noah out of the paint, and it is what it is. I would rather be in that scenario to have Gasol. So, the trade-off is you don't get the defense, or at least the offensive rebounds that he got last year or in the past. And then defense, I think Noah's doing a really good job defensively, keep grabbing boards. It's just what's his trademark shot, right? Is to get a rebound and slam it back in, right?
Yeah.
He has not been doing that because Gasol is like the go-to guy.
Yeah, so it's just frustrating to watch because they give up so many offensive rebounds, and you can't do that against these good teams. It's a recipe for disaster.
Well,
it's true.
It's not that it's true. I just think that it's less of a concern. I think they're still getting. I think they're. To me, the biggest issue is their defense doesn't do well in transition. Whereas last year they'd slow the pace down so much that no team could push on offense. So even if a team was shooting well, shooting 50%, they would still score 90 points a game. Now, teams are pushing against the Bulls, mainly because the Bulls are shooting themselves more, and the team gets rebound and pushes to the other end. I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but I just think that it's a faster-paced game, and that's why you're seeing teams score more against the Bulls. Whereas in the past, the Bulls slowed down the tempo a lot. So I'm less concerned about the defense and more concerned about continuity and individual players and sporadic offense this year. Because if they're going to win, they're going to have to outscore a team, not hold a team to 80 points.
So what are you guys thinking about the Bulls and the way they're playing without some of their star players? Let us know at SwerskiSports.com, Twitter at SwerskiSports, or Facebook.com/SwerskiSports. So it's warm outside, or at least getting there. You know what that means, right?
Well, I have my first baseball preseason game on Thursday night.
And so,
does that make you jealous?
A little bit. So what does that mean? Baseball. Baseball. And
sorry, I kind of ruined your transition because I'm excited about it.
So Gary is if you don't listen to the show normally, Gary is a White Sox fan. I'm a Cubs fan.
Yeah.
And Chris Bryant is killing it, and that is totally eating up Gary.
It's not killing me. It's not eating me up. He's Babe Ruth. Fine. The thing is, he's gonna be a good player. The way it's blowing up that he already he's hitting home runs in spring training and anoint him the greatest player ever.
I'm a diehard Cubs fan, and for all you Cubs fans that are listening, pump the brakes. Chris Bryant
he's not even going to make a team opening day lineup.
Chris Bryant will be playing in the bigs this year. I promise you. Unless he's injured, he will be playing in the bigs. But he's not going to be batting over 500 with over a 2 OPS for a season. That's just not going to happen. Let's be realistic. As I was telling Gary before we started recording, the best hitter for the Cubs during spring training last year was Javi Baez. And everyone was screaming, Javi Baez needs to be on this opening day roster. That's the only way the Cubs can win is if you have Javi Baez on the team. And when he brought him up, what did he do? He struck out in record fashion.
He did his best attempt to be like Rob Deere.
He was Rob Deere for Halloween all year long.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's fun to watch. Everyone loves them some Rob Deere. It's either a strikeout or a home run.
But everyone just has to have an understanding that there's sports where you could just step in and go from one level to the next and just do well.
Like basketball.
Basketball, you can.
To some extent, hockey.
No, not really. You can't really.
Patrick Kane.
Patrick Kane.
Alex O.
So for the most part, it's closer to baseball. But football, you have guys that go right from college to the pros and do well. But baseball is a sport where that doesn't really happen. Is the pitchers, even if you play college, the pitchers and players you're playing against, the competition you have, is way different than you will even in the minor leagues. And single A to double A and double A to triple A is a huge leap and bound from what you're going to see in the professionals. Is you pitchers you're hitting against, if you're a good hitter, they have seen every situation that there is to see, and they've got a lot of stuff to throw at you. There's a reason that they stick around in the big leagues. And
the other thing to take, we talked about this before, take into consideration is pitchers generally just throw fastballs the first few weeks of spring training because they're trying to stretch their arm out. They're not throwing any off-speed pitches. They're not throwing their curveballs. They're not throwing any of that. I mean, that's why Baez did so well last spring training, is because all he saw were fastballs, and he's just like Pedro Serrano.
Yeah, Joe Wu lets him hit the straight ball, but when the ball curves, the bat doesn't like it.
He needs to give him some room.
And there was a statistic that Javi Baez saw more curveballs than any other major league batter last year, and he can't hit a curveball at like a major league curveball. So Chris Bryant is hitting the crap out of straight fastballs and changeups.
As he should. With his skill, he should be doing that.
It's so give the guy some time, and they've Jed and Theo have been very honest in saying he's going to go to the minors.
Well, yeah, because of his agent.
Yeah, even if that wasn't the case, it's the guy doesn't even have 300 AAA at bats, and they want him to work out issues. They've said this with everybody. They want them to work out their issues in the minors. They said that about Javi Baez, and he was hot throughout spring training last year. And they sent him down, and he struggled.
Yeah.
And it took him a long time to unstruggle. And then he found his groove in Triple A. He was
Triple A when he started doing well.
He found his groove and started hitting. And then they moved him up, and he struggled again.
Well, the one deceiving thing about that is pitching is probably better in Double A than it is in Triple A. Because pitchers that throw really well in Double A probably go up to the bigs. The pitchers in AAA are those guys that are like the tweeners that go up and down and up and down and up and down. So it's not surprising that he put up better numbers in AAA than he did early on.
Well, it's the players in AA that you see have. I mean, there's guys that just aren't ready, but the top guys, they're more talent than what's the word I want to use? Than experience. AAA, you're going to see guys with more experience, and sometimes that's a good thing. I mean,
that's why AAA is important. You see the crafty veterans, and who mix pitches up, who don't just throw. Don't try to, like, you're right. The really stud pitchers in AA probably just throw fastball, curveball, whereas guys in AAA want to show that they can be an asset, so they're basically pitching to try to get back up in the bigs now rather than a year or two from now.
Yeah, because most of the pitchers that you see in AAA, if there was a quadruple A, that's the kind of level they are. They're up and down. They're coming in there when you have injuries. They're replenishing your bullpen.
Mean where half the White Sox and Cubs players should be playing on?
You know what? The Cubs had a good bullpen last year.
Yeah, White Sox did not, but
they did not. You put the Cubs and Sox together last year. They had a good team.
No.
they had the best.
They will this year.
They would have the best first base combo.
Neither team had great hitting, and neither team had great backhand pitching, starting pitching in. And Cubs had a decent bullpen, and the Sox did. It was just a mess.
Yeah, and driving over to Gary's house, I was listening to one of the sports stations, and some callers were calling in saying that Chris Bryant is, if they send him down, they will be sending down the best hitter on the team.
Doesn't matter.
And that's ridiculous because Chris Bryant may someday be the best hitter on the Cubs, but you have Anthony Rizzo, you have Starlin Castro, and regardless of what you think about Starlin Castro, he is a professional hitter.
Sure, he's a 2-time All-Star.
I mean, how many times is that guy hovering around or going over 200 hits? 200 hits in professional baseball is good. And so the guy can hit. Anthony Rizzo can hit.
Well, here's the thing with Bryant is even if he is the best hitter, you have to be smart. That extra year of arbitration is so important because you know from his agent he's going to be demanding. If he turns out to be what everyone is hoping he will, he's gonna get a big time contract at that point, and you might as well get another year out of him since you've invested the money initially to draft him. You know, that's the perk of actually taking a gamble on him is you can have the opportunity to have him have that extra year on your team. And for that reason alone, he should not make the team. And whether he's hitting lights out or not, bring him up in May, bring him up in June, you know.
And Boris knows what the Cubs are doing.
He knows what every team does.
And the thing is I heard Theo Epstein talking on in an interview about this because the players' union had some comments about it, and he said, frankly, he's like, I'm not going to comment on it because I didn't hear the question, I didn't hear the whole answer, so I don't want to take anything. If anything was taken out of context, I don't want to respond to it in that way. He said, but I don't know what reasoning that the Players Association would have to tell a team its business on a player that hasn't even had 300 AAA at-bats on where they play. And he's dead right. Is they've had this philosophy, and
it's not even that, Sean. It's that, not to say they own him, but they do. They invested a first-round pick on him. They invested the finances that comes with a first-round pick on him. They've done that. And therefore, they bought the rights to have him for 6 years. They did that. So they could do whatever they want. They could put him in the minors for 5 of those years. I think it might be 5 years of minors. Or they have to put him on a major league roster. You know, they bought the rights to do that. Or 6 years of arbitration. They bought the rights to do that. It seriously doesn't matter what the players' union thinks. It's the most powerful union in this country. Like, these players get paid so much. It's ridiculous. And it's like they're paying for someone who hasn't proven anything yet. They can keep in the minors if they want for a couple more months. I don't see the big deal.
Yeah, I mean, and everyone, you can't anoint a guy who has never taken a major league at bat in a regular season game and anoint him a superstar. You can't do it based on minor league stats. You just can't do it. So
and like you were saying when we were talking before, he can't be compared to Jose Abreu or anyone else who played who's from Cuba and got those big time contracts. He can't be compared to that because they have professional experience.
Yeah, and Cuban baseball as a whole is not Major League Baseball, but there's a lot of good Cuban baseball players, and it's professional baseball. It's better.
It's equivalent to Double-A. It's still professional baseball.
Yeah, and there's a lot of guys in there that are Major League All-Star caliber guys that you're playing against. So he's played against good talent, and he's done it for a number of years. So he steps in and does what he needs to do. It's, you know, and And the thing is the Cubs, let's not all get ahead of ourselves, is the Cubs have a tough division that they're playing in. So you're not going to see them just step in and win the competition. And if Chris Bryant is in the minors for 6 weeks at the beginning of the season,
it's not going to make or break them this year.
Yeah, it's not going to make or break them. It's going to be...
Especially if he struggles, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he'll struggle. I'm saying if he does...
He's going to. It's a fact of Major League Baseball is there's ups and downs in the season. It's a long season. There's ups and downs. Especially when you're a rookie, there's going to be slumps. Mike Trout slumps. Jose Abreu had some slump.
Actually,
his was a very minimal slump.
Jose Abreu's slump was he didn't hit home runs, but when he did that, it raised his batting average 40 points.
But everybody has slumps. It's how you work through them. And so the Cubs, let's be honest, they're in a tough division. 500 should be a good marker, and that's probably going to leave them. They're probably going to leave them 3-4 games out of the wild card.
After 3 years of losing over 90 games, and last year losing almost 90 games, a 500 record should be a very positive thing.
Yeah. So if you see that, and maybe if then those first 6 weeks you have him just absolutely crushing the ball, and the Cubs are, what is it, maybe like 20 years ago, 15 years ago when the Reds came out and won like 20 games in a row. If you do something like that, you go, you know what? Maybe we've got a competitive team. Maybe you bring him up, but you have to evaluate. You have to give him time because the philosophy of Jed and Theo is everybody's going to struggle. You would like to see them struggle in the minors, work it themselves out, and Chris Bryant hasn't struggled anywhere yet.
So, I agree.
I don't really know what else there is to talk to. Or the first, as far as the Cubs, were the first couple weeks.
Everyone's talking about the back.
That was you know what, that was just fun. But it doesn't mean anything.
So I guess one thing to talk about is like spring training always brings surprises or young guys that had no business making the team. They have a chance to. It's one of those things where like there's always one or two roster spots that you didn't think that a player of some caliber would make. What is that for the Cubs? Like, who are those guys?
Let me just say this. This should sum up spring training to you. Is Mike Olt is batting like 360 with over a 1 OPS.
Yeah.
And
well, he used to be a good prospect. He may turn it around.
Yeah.
The optimistic Cub fan perspective. I don't know where you're gonna play him.
Who cares? You know, I hope he turns it around. I mean, he's a nice enough guy.
Maybe they can move him to left field.
Maybe they can move him for a prospect.
I was just messing.
So I mean, it's what I'm saying is that's how meaningless it is. Is a guy that batted like nothing for you, didn't even bat his weight, is got over a 1 OPS in spring training right now. So take it with a grain of salt. Anthony Rizzo is not batting worth crap. Starling Castro is not batting worth crap. It's spring training. It's who cares? There's no World Series for spring training.
Unless you're Kansas City, who wins spring training every year. So, anyways, back to my question: what players, whether they're being non-roster invitees, or guys that you thought you didn't think about could possibly make the team? Are there any of those on the Cubs?
I mean, right now, we know who's first. We know who's short. I can take a good stab at who's third. It's probably going to be Valbuena for the first 6 weeks. And we sort of know what the starting rotation is going to be. So there's really not going to be...
Who's the fifth starter for the Cubs?
I believe it's going to be Wood. Edwin Jackson. Edwin Jackson is a guy that he's put in a position, and so he's a guy that was a former All-Star, came to the Cubs with a big contract, and stunk it up. And now he has absolutely no pressure at all because he doesn't even have a starting spot. He's a guy that is just pitching. They are going to see what happens. And Joe Madden has said, listen, you have no pressure. Just go out there and pitch. We'll see what happens. So he's the guy I'm actually looking at, because if he can turn it around and
good number 5. He pitched well for the White Sox.
Yeah, if you can bring him back to anywhere near the stuff that he's capable of having, and you put him as your number 5, then your rotation becomes good. And that's the guy I'm really looking at. And I'm
Sorry.
also
I just saw Mike Dunleavy can't jump, get blocked.
and I'm looking to see what they're going to do with the 3 catcher spots.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
And I'm looking to see what Dexter Fowler is gonna do.
He would have been double blocked.
So-
Did you see Mike Dunleavy's missed dunk against the Thunder last time they played the Thunder? It was horrible.
Was it as good as that shot?
No, he goes up for the dunk and he just goes right into the rim. He doesn't get over it.
The funny thing is
He's 6'9". I'm sorry.
You pull out like individual plays by Mike Dunleavy, and he just looks terrible. But without him in the roster,
I've
they're
seen that
terrible.
before. Yeah. Anyways, back to baseball. Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm not looking for any kind of Cinderella story. The stories I'm looking at is who's going to be the 5th starter. What's Edwin Jackson going to do? What are they going to do with 3 catchers? Because everybody in the world knows they're not carrying 3 catchers, but Madden, Theo, and Jed all say we might carry 3 catchers, and they're saying it just enough to create a slight bit of doubt, and somebody's going to get hurt, and they're gonna be like, we've got
watch someone have that fake injury where they go on the DL, like that high ankle sprain.
Yeah. So
What about second base?
that's going to be an interesting one. Alcantara is a second baseman, so it could be his. I think it's Javi Baez's to lose, and
Is he losing it?
yes,
That's good with that.
it's his to lose, and he's losing it. But you've got Alcantara there, because it's a pretty loaded.
What about a
outfield.
veteran second? Do they have a veteran second baseman?
Not really.
Could have gotten
I mean,
Bonifacio.
the thing is, you could put Mike Holt at 3rd, and you could put Luis Valbuena at 2nd. That's an option as well. But Alcantara, you've got Soler, you've got Coughlin, you've got Fowler as outfielders.
So is Soler going to be starting?
I think so.
Okay.
I think that's your starting outfield is Coughlin, Soler, and Fowler. And then your infield, you've got shortstop and first baseman locked. Third base, it's probably going to be Valbuena for the first part of the season. And if they need him to play second, then we look at Mike Holt, because he's at least played at major league level. Not very well, but he played at major league level. And then you move Valbuena to second, because he's a nice piece to have.
Sure.
So that's what we're looking at, and I think second base goes Javi Baez is to lose, and I have a feeling that no matter what, Alcantara is on the team, because he can play
Multiple positions.
He can play any of the outfield spots, and he can play second base, and I think it's his job after Baez to play second base, and then if neither one of those two are playing well enough, then Valbuena will be a second baseman, and then he'll stay there when Bryant moves up. I think that's where we're going, and then just filling in the rest of the roster spots. So let's move over to your White Sox.
Okay.
What is there any surprises that you're seeing?
Well, the two biggest competitions are 5th starter and second base, similar to Cubs. I think there are some surprises and some things I'm really happy about. Back in the winter when we talked, I was hoping Micah Johnson would win the second base position, and he's running away with it. He's having a really good spring training. He's fundamentally doing all the right things. He's stealing bases. They got the White Sox got. I don't know if you knew this. The White Sox hired Vince Coleman to help their team steal more bases.
Yeah, I heard that. Heard on the radio.
So I expect if Johnson wins the position, I expect him and Adam Eaton to both steal over 30 bases this year. To go along with Alistair Ramirez probably getting close to that. So they should be a pretty fast team. The competition was between Micah Johnson, Gordon Beckham, and Carlos Sanchez. And Sanchez isn't doing bad, but Micah is just running away with it. Which you kind of love it for a team that's on the upswing to have a rookie come in with no major league at bat. His first major league at bat will be, the first game of the year. They were going to call him up last year, but he got injured and he basically shut him down for the season. It's kind of exciting to think that his first major league at bat is because he makes the roster and he's their starting second baseman. That doesn't happen much anymore.
So who is in the running for that fifth rotation spot? So we already know, and if Rodon doesn't start on the opening day roster, then who is that fourth spot?
So what I've been hearing is they're actually going to go with a 4-man roster until Sale comes back. They're going to be able to do it because they have a lot of days off early on.
And he's supposed to be back.
He's about April 12th, around there. So your 4-man roster to start, at least looks like it's going to be Samardzija, Quintana, Danks, and Oesi. If they have to go 5 before Sale goes back, the biggest surprise pitcher has been Brad Penny, who came on as he signed a non-roster invitee. He's been pitching really well. He's pitching 4 innings already. He's the first pitcher going longer than 2 innings.
What's his weight at?
I honestly don't know. But I actually like having Brad Penny on the team because it's nice to have that guy that has major league experience if someone does go down with an injury.
And he's got a lot of major league experience.
Yeah,
he's played for a long time.
I thought it was a good signing, a low risk signing, and he's pitching well. They're saying that he developed a cutter this off season. So it's weird. A 38-year-old coming up with a new pitch at his age. But that cutter does run. I mean, the cutter is what made Mark Burley, right? So it's a good pitch. We'll see what he can do with it. But so I wouldn't be surprised if they do go 5 to start the season that he's the 5th starter. I don't think it's going to be Carlos Rodon for the same reason I don't think Chris Bryant will be in the starting lineup. Plus, Rodon had a bad outing last time, which hurt his chances. He had to shut everyone out in order to make the starting 5.
I heard the White Sox pitching coach on an interview the other day, and they were asking him about Rodon, and he said, "Listen, he's just came out of college. He's if you're looking at players."
Yeah, he's pitched 20 innings.
Yeah, he said
in the minors.
He said if you look at a guy with his amount of experience, and you compare him, he's way ahead of most of those guys. And he's like, but he has little experience, and they're like, so let's just not anoint him to the starting rotation already. And
it's probably a good indication he's not gonna. He might not even be there in May. He may be in the minors all year. He'll probably have to be sensational in the first 2 months in the minors to be called up.
And that's not a bad thing.
No.
It's a similar situation to the Cubs. They're not. I think I'm a Cubs fan saying this is I've said this before, is the White Sox have a better chance to make the playoffs, and it has nothing to do with the talent. It has to do with they've got a little bit more veteran player, and it's a weaker division. So I think they have a better shot at making the playoffs.
And they have quite arguably, next to Washington, one of the best 1, 2, 3 starting rotations in all of baseball. Granted, their 4 and 5 are a little weak. Though I like Noesi a lot. I think Noesi is going to be a serviceable pitcher. Definitely, there's no need to rush Rodon up at this point. And, you know, he'll come eventually. He's got the stuff. He's got all the stuff everyone's saying that he's projected to be a number 1, number 2 starting pitcher. We'll see what happens, but he's got the stuff, and might as well not rush it if you don't need it. You know, if they needed another pitcher, I'd say yes, but it looks like their rotation. I mean, they'll have enough pitching this year to give them a fighting chance, regardless if he comes up or not.
So the big question for you guys is catcher.
I also think the big question is who's going to be this opening day pitcher.
I mean, that's less of a... Yeah.
No, it's a big deal, man.
I don't really think... I don't think it's a big deal.
I think it's a big deal from a pitcher's perspective. Like, every pitcher wants to be the opening day starter.
And so, you have two schools of thought, I guess, on this. Is you give it... Sale's not going to be ready. Otherwise, it was be clear-cut Chris Sale.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's your best pitcher. Did
it last year.
Yeah.
He's our ace.
Yeah, he's your ace. He's the guy everybody would acknowledge him. But now that he's not going to be ready, he's going to miss the first couple. He'll be ready when the Cubs bleachers are ready. And do you go with Quintana, who's been there longer, and he's been the heir at number 2, or do you go with Jeff Samardzija, who's the guy that you're wooing to try to sign a long-term deal? Because that could go a long way if you say, listen.
See, it's a bigger issue than you first made it out to be.
I mean, if I was a staff ace and somebody was like, hey, listen, this guy's been on our team for a long time and you just signed a big contract, can he be opening a starter? I don't care. It doesn't matter to me at all.
Mm-hmm.
But
so my thought is 2 reasons why I think Quintana will be the opening day starter. One is Quintana's been with the team, like you said. I think that does matter to the White Sox. The White Sox are an organization that treats their players well. They're known to be an organization which is probably why they suck all the time. Because those organizations that they don't care if you're a star or not, they just go out and get someone better. The White Sox will ride someone a little too long because because they're so in with them, aka Paul Konerko. I think Quintana, from that perspective, definitely deserves it. The other reason is, from a more like a smart reason, they're playing the Royals, and the Royals don't bat well against lefties. So they would much rather have two lefty, righty, lefty against them than to start off with a righty and potentially have them have success against Samardzija. So I think that's the other reason why I believe he'll be the starter. And I mean, he's had a better spring training too, if there was a third reason. So
what's still funny to me is that Oakland at trade deadline last year had one of the best prospects in baseball, and the Cubs had Jeff Samardzija and Jason Hamill, and then at the start of this year, the Cubs have 2 of the best prospects from the Oakland days, and Jason Hamill, and the White Sox have Jeff Samardzija, and Oakland has nothing.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Marcus Semien has had a really good spring training for Oakland, and they actually have high hopes for him to be their starting second baseman this year. So I wouldn't say the trade was totally one-sided. I think it is one-sided in that you traded an ace, a potential ace, for a second baseman that could be serviceable.
Yeah, it's you.
But I like Marcus Semien. I thought he did well for the White Sox as a rookie.
But we're in an era where hitting is down, clearly.
Yeah.
And so the only way you give up a top-notch pitcher is if you get
Something back.
a top-notch hitter.
Like the Cashner Rizzo trade.
Yeah.
Which is turning out to be great for both teams.
And that's a trade that trades are supposed to look like, because both sides are supposed to win in the trade. You always you would love to fleece somebody every time, but that's really hard to do, because most of the time when you get into a general manager position, you've done it because you're good at what you do, and it's hard to fleece somebody. And if you think you're fleecing somebody, they might know something that you don't know.
Yeah.
So that was a situation where it was you gave up something you had for something you wanted, and you ended up both winning.
So catcher. I don't think there's competition. I think Tyler Flowers is your opening day catcher. I think Soto makes the team because he bats lefty. And that's it. I think Flowers earned the right to be the starting day catcher. And he's done interviews saying that he thinks there's a competition, but I don't see how there can be, to be honest. I don't think he's the greatest catcher, but he's definitely a serviceable catcher, and he makes the starting pitching staff really. He knows how to call balls and strikes, so I don't think there's an issue there.
I know a team in close proximity to the White Sox that may have a catcher to trade.
Oh, the Cubs. I would rather. Would you rather have Flowers or Wellington Castillo? Castillo's a better hitter, but Flowers manages the game better. Isn't that the knock on Castillo, is that he doesn't call a good game?
Yeah.
So I don't see how, especially with Don Cooper as the White Sox pitching coach, I don't see how he would pick a catcher that could hit better over Tyler Flowers.
No, what I'm saying is it's nice to have a second catcher that can spell him or come in and hit.
I mean, that's why they brought Soto in, and Soto's left-handed. It's kind of the best, I didn't think that was a bad signing, but
we'll see.
For a backup catcher,
We'll see.
I know you have dislike towards him, but wasn't he an all-star for you at one point in time? And then he just plummeted.
He loves the weed.
He's older now.
He loves the weed.
He's in his 30s, isn't he?
He loves the weed.
So
he was one of the many players that we fleeced Texas with.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the other interesting player that I'm looking forward to seeing what he does when the season starts is a player that's not getting any love whatsoever as far as what he could possibly do this year, and that's Avisail Garcia. Avi has shown signs of being a really good hitter. He got injured last year, derailed him. When he came back, he did pretty good. So going to be interested to see how he does batting after Abreu and LaRoche, and what he could do.
I forgot that they brought LaRoche in.
He hit a grand slam yesterday, because spring training comes. But no, I mean, to have a 3-4-5 of Abreu, LaRoche, and Garcia, it'll be really interesting to see if Garcia takes off. And he's definitely a wild card for putting up big numbers. So we'll see. And there's some things to be excited about. I think Adam Eaton could be that leadoff guy the team has been waiting for since Scott Pasenik did it for 1 year,
Yeah.
We'll see.
So let's move on to the last topic, the Bears.
Oh, yeah. They're doing something. I think that's weird.
So last week I was talking about it, and I talked about a lot of things. I didn't mention the Brandon Marshall trade at all. And
Was it a trade or did they just like ship him? Because I don't think they got a 5th round pick.
they gave Brandon Marshall and a 7th round pick to get a 5th rounder.
Jeez.
But you get rid of that salary. It freed up a lot of salary, like $4 million.
And then they spent. They spent. I didn't think they would.
So I mean, I had an email that said, how do you get rid of Brandon Marshall and not Jake Cutler? And
Easy.
I say easy because one is Brandon Marshall was becoming a problem. He going dangerously close to being that Brandon Marshall that he was in Miami when they were just like, I can't have you anymore.
And I'll go on. Use another one. I got it.
Yeah, and number 2 is he made a lot of money, and he was for 3 more years. You're going to have to pay Alshon Jeffrey soon. Number 4 is there's a lot of wide receivers as free agents, and there's a lot of good wide receivers in the draft. So, and you have Marshall and Jeffrey are very much similar receivers.
They're big and slow.
Yeah, you need somebody that's going to stretch the field. So he was primed to move. You could move him. I mean, you could have moved Alshon Jeffrey and gotten more in return, but he's going to be the future of the team, not Brandon Marshall. And plus, there's a lot of reports of a rift between Cutler and Marshall. So if they're not going to be in line, and I think at some point Marshall made Cutler a worse quarterback because Cutler always looked for him. And he looked off other receivers, and he looked at Brandon Marshall. So all those reasons, you say Brandon Marshall had to go. And then as far as why is Cutler still there is who is available at quarterback. Sure, you could be trading for...
Josh McCown was. I'm joking.
Yeah, you know what? He's awful. Let's just put him in the awful camp. Just because he had half of a good year one time, and he's almost 40 years old, he's terrible. Jimmy Clausen is not the answer.
Nick Foles
is a system quarterback. Sam Bradford is available in trade, but guess what? You don't know what football Derrick Rose is going to do. So it's a and then Jake Locker was probably the best of the free agents, and he decided to retire. So,
I just thought that you don't give up on a quarterback like that. Like unless you have one to replace him. I'm not in any way comparing Jay Cutler to Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers, but they gave up on Brett Favre because they had Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
They had someone.
They gave up on Joe Montana because they had Steve Young. They gave up on Drew Bledsoe because they had Tom Brady. That's a situation where you put yourself in when you develop good quarterbacks.
But you don't give up on a quarterback if you have nothing.
Yeah, when there's nothing else out there. Believe you me, if there was a decent option out there as a quarterback, the Bears would have explored trading Jay Cutler. But it was going to be a difficult trade because he makes a lot of money. And as far as who's in the draft, I've gone through the quarterbacks in the draft, and there's not a lot of good options. You've got Jameis Winston, who has got all the skill to be a great quarterback, but his off-the-field issues are a concern. And plus, he's going to go number 1. He's either going to go number 1 at Tampa, or they're talking about trading Drew Brees. Saints are talking about trading Drew Brees to Tampa for the number 1 pick, and then they'll take him.
Is Tampa going to be that stupid?
Depends. I mean, if
Brees has what, 2-3 years left?
But if you think your window to win is right now, and then
I mean, based on their safety signing, they sure think it is.
Yeah, and the thing is it's still a long shot of what.
That was a joke on your boys getting both signed to Tampa.
I know. The Bears rubbish of
Lance Briggs soon will head down there.
Yeah, Peanut Tillman. And, but the trash of Bears safeties all signed with Tampa. And, Thankfully. But if they think they can win now, they got a stud wide receiver. If they think they can win now, Drew Brees is a sure thing. You know what Drew Brees is. You can't be certain about Is Jameis Winston going to be?
Yeah, but you'll have 4 years to figure it out versus with Drew Brees. I mean, he's going to be on a decline. He's not.
They haven't accepted it. It's talks. But as far as the Bears are concerned, is you're not getting Jameis Winston. The question is, could you get Marcus Mariota? And other than that, it's a big drop off at quarterback.
And people don't even think Mariota's going to be that good.
I think he's.
Oh.
I think he's
Noah
going to be.
just got hammered.
Yeah, Noah did just get hammered. I think he's going to be a system quarterback, and I think he could fit in well in what they do in Seattle. Clearly, could fit what they do in Philadelphia.
Should we just give Seattle the next Super Bowl title?
They're going to be tough to beat.
Like, when I heard about that trade, I was just like, why of all teams would they do that? New Orleans.
But so you don't have any options at quarterback. You don't know. You need somebody, and Jay Cutler has enough talent, and they're the new staff with Coach Fox, offensive coordinator Adam Gase, and Ryan Pace. They are building this offense around Jay Cutler. And they are going to do all the things that make him comfortable, because if you get Jay Cutler to buy into your system, he's a good quarterback.
By the way, it's why you probably have to love the Eddie Royal signing.
Yes.
Because besides him being a Jay Cutler guy, he's exactly the type of player that will cater towards Jay Cutler's strengths without having Jay Cutler's weaknesses exploited, which, you know, the Bears never really had a good slot receiver that could do a slant well. And, you know, Jay Cutler is such a strong arm that, you know, having a guy like that would be great.
And if you look at the stats, is Eddie Royal and Brandon Marshall had pretty much the same stats last year. So you're not really...
And you're paying him peanuts compared to what you signed a 3-year deal for almost as much as... for a little more than what Marshall was for one.
Yeah. So you're building an offense around Jay Cutler, and it's a fact is if you can get Jay Cutler to buy into your system, he plays well. If he doesn't buy into your system and he's going to go quote unquote rogue, he's going to go rogue, and that's when he makes mistakes, and that's when he's bad Jay Cutler. So you build the system that he's comfortable with, and you support him. You're gonna get the best out of anything.
So it seems like you're happy with the offense where they're at. Defense is I don't know what to think of the defense. Like, they're talking about moving Houston and Allen to outside linebacker. Like, I don't understand. They got to trade. I would almost assume they got to trade Allen because I don't think there's a fit if they go to a 3-4. It just seems like they're. I don't know. They signed a good linebacker. You like that signing a lot, I know.
Yeah.
And McPhee. I have a buddy who's a Ravens fan. He's like, we just got a hell of a player.
Yeah, so. He's good. It's going to be interesting you've got
Noah at the point driving to the lane. Sorry.
You've got Willie Young, who was
the best
defensive lineman they had last year, but he blew his knee out. When is he going to be ready? Then you've got Lamar Houston, who is built for this 3-4. He's going to be perfect, and he's going to end up being he's going to be a defensive end within the system.
They were talking about if he was okay with moving outside line.
I don't see it. I think he's going to be a defensive end
as long as he doesn't jump up in the air after getting a sack.
Yeah, but when is he going to be ready? Because he had an Achilles injury.
I thought he popped his knee.
No, he was tore his Achilles.
He tore his ACL.
You sure?
Yeah.
I thought it was Willie Young.
No. Lamar Houston tore his ACL when he jumped up celebrating after a sack.
Okay, whatever. It's either way. They're serious injuries. Both of them have serious injuries. We don't know when they're coming back. So you have to build this defense around him. Jared Allen, you don't know what you're going to do with him. He was another when he was back to healthy after
He played well.
once after those first few weeks of when he missed the time because of the illness, and he finally got his strength back, he played pretty well. He's a hustler, but he has said that he's a 4-3 defensive end. That's what he wants to play. He doesn't want to be an outside linebacker. But I know another guy named Julius Peppers that said the same thing. And what did he end up doing? He switched to outside linebacker, and he got a lot of success. It could be more success for Jared Allen because where he struggles is when you run at him and when he has to take on a big offensive lineman. If you let him go into with some little bit of space, he might have better numbers. And when you have Vic Fangio and John Fox sit him down and say, listen, this is what we think we can do with you, then maybe you do. So you're addressing some of the needs on defense. You bring in Antrell Roll,
which I'm sure you like a lot.
I don't love
that deal is really good.
Yeah, it's a good deal. I do like him. I don't think it's the answer.
It might be like a piece though.
Yeah, it's a stopgap. I mean, I would love to see a stud safety in there.
Well, he used to be.
But I want to know what they're going to do the other side. Are they going to, because they either need to start Ryan Mundy or get rid of him because he saves you almost $2 million in cap space.
Jeez, that much.
So you're starting to shore up the safeties. You need to still shore up your cornerback spots. Once everybody comes back healthy, your defensive line, I think, is going to be all right.
But so who do they draft? Do you think they're drafting safety or tackle?
You don't
or
draft
linebacker.
There's not
it's been like last year all over again, doesn't it?
So you need an inside linebacker, and that's something you need. You need a middle linebacker. What are the Bears going to draft? I've looked at it is, in an ideal world, if there was somebody available at that position to play inside linebacker, then you draft them. But there's nobody that's good enough to be a middle linebacker that's worth the number 7 pick. And there's no defensive tackle that you pick with number 7. There's no...
what about safety?
There's no safety that good enough to pick at 7.
Jeez, maybe you trade down then.
But the thing is, there's impact players. The impact players there are wide receiver and an edge rusher. So
you think maybe they go wide receiver?
I think they still go edge rusher.
Edge rusher? Interesting.
I still think that they try to bring in like a Shane Ray or a Vic Beasley.
Do you think they've given up on Marquise Wilson?
No. I think Marquise Wilson is going to be a big part of their plan.
Okay.
I think Marquise Wilson is a very talented guy. I think they just need to utilize him. And he's
not get injured, yeah.
So I look at him. I still think that there could be a wide receiver that they do somewhere along the way, but the guy I like is Channing Crowder, who I think in the second round, I think he's a Steve Smith type.
Nice.
I really like him because he's little. I watched him go up against cornerbacks that had 6 inches on him, and he was just physical. He beat them, and he's low center of gravity. He's got deceptive speed and quickness. I like him a lot. But it's also going to depend on what else they do. Is they need a middle linebacker. They need another cornerback. And
so, are you more optimistic about the Bears now than you were a couple months ago? Do you think they could be a 500 team or even potential wild? Because we know that Green Bay is going to win a division, right?
Yeah.
Potential wild card team.
You got to see what else they do. At this point, no, but
they're making steps.
Yeah. I mean, they've got a competent defensive coordinator in there, which is a big difference. If you have the talent on offense, but where my questions on offense is what are you going to do for your backup tight end spot? And what are you going to do for right tackle? And what are you going to do for center? I don't think Garza is the answer at center. And from the rumors I'm hearing is Ryan Pace agrees that he's not the answer. And they're looking at the rumor I've heard is Samson Sattel, a veteran center. So what the other answer is, or question is, what do you do at guard? At right tackle. You've got a left tackle who can play well. You've got two really good guards. Mm-hmm. You're already looking to address the center. You've got the weak link at right tackle, and you need to shore that up. If they can shore that up, and if they can shore up that position, if they can bring in a middle linebacker with veteran experience that can play above average, and you hit on your first round draft pick, they could be a wildcard team. But that's a lot of ifs.
Yeah, but it's better than it was a few months ago when we thought they were going to just tank and get rid of everyone and do bad for a while and just stock up on drafts.
Yeah, but it's hard to do that in the NFL because you don't usually trade. You don't usually get a lot for veteran players, and it's hard because you have to, these guys come in right away. It's not like baseball where they go sit down in the minors for a while and you stock up, and you need these guys to come in and just play well. And the trick is you do like New England, and you're smart and you plug holes well. You have a good system in place, and you put guys in the system. And when you get a draft pick, you're able to draft best player available. Best player available is always the best position to be in. When you draft out a need, you stretch. You go, okay, well, we get the 7th pick, but we really need a safety, and the best safety is probably not, until about a 15 pick. So you could.
Or you really need a defensive end, and you draft Shane McClellan.
And so you want to be able to be in a position like New England and Green Bay where it's best player available, and then if you don't have a player that you like in that air range, trade back. You keep getting ammunition, and then you either have a lot of picks the next year, or you use that when there's next round, and you're like, you know what? We picked 12th in this round, or we're in 12 more picks, and there's a guy we really like, but we've got like 4 5th-rounders. You start trading up to get that. That's the position you want to be in, and that's where the Bears want to be. But you have to start hitting on your draft picks. You have to hit on your free agent signings, and then you have to have a plan and a good scheme. And the Bears have never had all of those things. And when you're New England and you have in a 7-round draft, you have 10 picks, and you hit on 4 or 5 of those, that looks awesome. But when you're the Bears and you have 5 picks in 7 rounds and you hit on 2 of them, it doesn't look as good. When it's similar percentage.
Sure. When is the draft? Next month?
End of April.
And how can you... It's here, right?
Mm-hmm.
How can we get tickets?
I don't know. Yeah, they haven't really said. I'm trying to get press passes. NFL, if you're listening, I am now recognized by the NFL as media.
Nice.
So they haven't posted on their media site yet, but I'm going to try to get media tickets.
I'd love to go. It might be a little tricky, depending on the time.
It's fun.
Well, because of my family situation,
Yeah. So real quick, I want to run through the defensive ends. As you know, a couple weeks ago, we went through the 3-4 outside linebackers. I'm going to lump most of these guys as edge rushers. Some of them I did as the 3-4 outside linebackers. Some of them I did as defensive ends. But I'm going to go through what I didn't go through last time. So we're going to finish up the edge rushers. So first up is Randy Gregory, 6'5", 235 out of Nebraska. Pros, he's got good hand fighting technique. He's really athletic, decent size, nice motor, but he's undersized at 235, gets caught up in blocks way too much, and can be a little slow off the ball. I think he has the talent to be a good 3-4 defensive end. I mean, good 3-4 outside linebacker. But of the first round edge rushers, I think he's the most likely to be a bust. I think he's a guy that has to develop some more technique and as well as size. So he's the most likely to be a bust, even though he is a talented guy. And there's the guy I'm really excited about, and that's Shane Ray. 6'3", 245 out of Missouri. He's just a ridiculously sick athlete. He's fast for any position, let alone an edge rusher. He claims to run a 4.44 or 4.4440. That's fast. He's got really good flexibility and balance at the line of scrimmage, quick off the snap, high motor guy. He needs to get stronger, though. He can get caught up in blocks on run plays, and he needs to develop some better pass rushing moves. Right now, he's just using his freakish athletic ability to get to people. But with good coaching, Shane Ray is going to be Clay Matthews. He's a definite 3-4 outside linebacker, and I would love to see the Bears get him. You get him, and you are getting a sick football player. Alvin Dupree, 6'4", 269 out of Kentucky. He's a productive pass rusher, but his success is really coming from his physical gifts and his technique. He's got long arms, a really quick burst. He's got the flexibility to be able to turn the corner and an explosive burst to close when he gets near the ball carrier. He varies his rush moves. He'll lull opponents with one speed and surprise them with an occasional burst to the next speed to generate big plays. He locates the ball quickly. He's really passionate in pursuit, and he's going to make some big plays. But he lacks some functional football strength. That's something he's going to have to work on. He struggles to rip free once he's engaged. So when he's with a blocker, he's gonna get held on there, and that's true of a lot of college linemen. He relies on his agility and his savvy to slip by would-be blockers. He rarely physically breaks the grasp once there's a block engaged, and he doesn't really put his hands up to block the vision of a quarterback. I envision him more as a 4-3 defensive end than a 3-4 outside linebacker, but I think he's got the athletic ability to be both, but I just see him more as a prototypical edge rusher or a defensive end in a 4-3. Then there's Daniel Hunter, 6'5", 252 out of LSU. He's got plenty of room to add muscle. He looks really skinny, actually. His exciting combination of length, balance, and awareness and agility help him make plays against the run and the pass. His quickness lets him dip under would-be blockers, beating them inside rather than relying on his length. But he's a guy that doesn't give his all every time. He's got really inconsistent plays, and he doesn't always get off the ball that quick. He's too often one of the last LSU rushers off the ball. And because of his length, he's a little bit susceptible to the run. He's a guy that's a little bit of a project. Then there's Owamagbe Odigizua. I hope I pronounced that correctly, because I've heard it pronounced during games, and I still can't say it. 6'3", 267 out of UCLA. He's got a combination of burst and power to beat tackles to the outside, and has shown some good balance and agility to spin inside. Provides consistent disruption from right defensive end position. He's had a history of surgery, so he had 2 surgeries on his hip that required him to miss the whole 2013 season. So he's going to have to be a medical check big time. He's still got to work on his pass rushing arsenal a little bit. He lacks the explosive burst off the ball or the nifty change of directions expected out of a first rounder. But honestly, his injury history really scares me. If he had no injuries, I really would like this guy as an early second round or late first round. I think he's going to develop into a good football player, but that's if his injuries check out. The last guy I'm going to talk about is Nate Orchard, 6'3", 250 out of Utah. Quick first step with the long stride to accelerate, natural bend around the edge with closing burst to finish with purpose, active and rangy for the position, hard worker, high motor. He's going to need to get bigger, stronger, bulkier. He just looks really thin out there. He has no bull rush skills at all. He's not that great at stopping the run. The thing is he's not that big, strong, or athletic, but for some reason he gets the job done. He'd be perfect in a good system like Seattle or New England, where they can plug guys into their system and they're going to do well. He's going to fit in well there. And I went through those real quick, but for the most part, we went through a lot of the edge rushers already. So that's going to be it for this week. And what do we still have left to talk about? We've talked about most positions already. We're getting really close to the draft. So we've got the safeties, the guards and the centers, and the tight ends. That's it. We've gone through all the positions. I'm not going to go through punters and kickers because I don't care. It doesn't matter. But so that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Make sure you're checking us out at swerskisports.com or on Twitter at Swerski Sports or Facebook.com Swerski Sports, where we've reached over 500 followers now. So that's really awesome. I'm excited about that. So make sure to check us out. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on the plains. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears! Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.